would you like to say a little bit about the background to the question that you asked?
Yeah. Well, I think it's mainly come about because I'm now gone into a sort of managerial position where I have to sort of say things and perhaps confront people and say things, and I'm not very good, even if I think it, of saying what I need to say.
Okay.
And then I question myself, and I'll go over and over it in my head.
Gosh,
all
I think
the time.
so many of us struggle with that we go over and over past conversations and what we wish we had said, or what did the other person mean by that? Should we have said this instead? I think it's an incredibly common and general difficulty for people.
Yeah.
And I think also the more potentially confrontational our conversation is, the more difficult it feels. So
yeah,
can I say 3 or 4 things that I think is often behind our difficulty with saying what we want to say, and then I'll come back to you. I think one of the, because so many of these are learned either as we grow up or from our experiences as an adult. So I think one is that we fear that if we say what we feel or what we need to say, it will cause conflict or confrontation, or the other person will get angry or upset. They will get emotional, and then because they'll get emotional, we will feel bad, or it will spark off emotion in us and we won't be able to manage it. So I think that's one reason that we struggle to say what we want to say. I think another thing that we can learn is that it isn't nice or kind to be direct, and that we should try to tread on eggshells and tiptoe around things and sort of hint at things rather than say them directly. And I think in the process of doing that, we can cause misunderstandings and difficult situations where if we had found a way to say it directly, it would be okay. I think another fear is that we can make people not like us. We can lose people if we say what we want to say. So what we tend to do is bottle it up and bottle it up and bottle it up. And we know there's something we want to address, but we hold it in for all of those things and others, for all of those reasons, and then it comes out as an absolute explosion.
Yeah.
So if I came back to you, Sarah, and I said, do any of those resonate with you? Do any of those?
Definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you want to say a bit about
that? In fact, to the point that was why I sort of contacted you, really. I had an issue that I had to deal with, and it got to the point where I will lock myself away and hide.
Right.
So I don't have to.
Yeah, and that's such an awful situation, isn't it, to find ourselves in?
Because you build it up in your head.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it becomes so much more. And actually, when you do go and sort it out, it's fine. But because you panic, and then you can't say what you want to say.
Yeah. And what that means that we're doing is 2 things. We are anticipating how it's going to be without really knowing. So we're writing a story about what's likely to happen. And then that story makes it get stuck in our throat. It's so frightening to actually try to have the conversation, because we've written the story already and we already dread it before we even get there. And I think the other thing is, if we have had experiences in our life where it has been appropriate to anticipate that there would be trouble, or that the other person wouldn't take it very well, then that story is built on experience that we've had. And so that experience has taught us to dread such confrontations. Has that been something that's true for you, Sarah?
Yeah, my dad. My dad's very, you never know how he's going to react.
Right.
So you're waiting all the time.
Yeah.
Just in case. One day you can say something, fine. Another day it'll be...
Right.
So I think that would probably be a lot of it.
Totally.
Possibly.
Yeah. And actually, it's the unpredictability of that, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's that one day it can be fine, and you could say the same thing another day, and it would be dreadful, and frightening, and punishing, and hurtful. And so, because it's unpredictable and we can never know, we actually hold it back. Yeah. And so that experience with your dad, and oh my goodness, so many of us have had that kind of fear built up inside us because of...
And I still do now.
Okay.
Not fear, but every time I see him, even now.
Yeah.
And he's an old man.
Yeah.
I still feel like
there are all those memories, aren't there? There are all those memories to be triggered, and he doesn't feel safe to you. He still triggers that memory inside you and those feelings. Have there been other people in your life who have then reinforced those same fears?
I know that I have repeated the patterns in pretty much every relationship that I've had till the one I've got at the moment. Yeah, definitely. And because I don't say anything, I just go along with it, and so then you're not happy inside.
No, absolutely.
And then
it's a
and then it all
vicious
just
circle.
comes out, and then that's that.
Yeah, and it's a vicious circle, isn't it? Because we try to hold it in. We try to tell ourselves we don't mind. It doesn't matter. And part of us is working hard to convince ourselves of that. And the other part is feeling angry and hurt and resentful, and doesn't want to find themselves in that place again of just having to put up with something or to be fearful. And I think the other thing is that when we've grown up not being helped to know how to manage saying difficult things, and we can't learn how to do that if we have experienced a parent being unpredictable and volatile, because we just grow up being fearful. So if we haven't grown up knowing with a parent's role model and help how to say difficult things and how to expect a good outcome, then we are caught in a vicious circle of anxiety and fear around ever saying.
And I never ever want that again. I try and keep it all smooth. That's my role. Keep it smooth. Keep it smooth.
Okay. I hope you're able to see some of the comments, by the way, that are coming up, and people being so supportive of you and telling you how brave you are to come and talk about this, because I know that by sharing this experience, you're going to be helping so many people. So I want to reiterate that as well, how brave of you, and thank you. I'm going to offer you a technique. I'm going to offer you a technique first, and then I'm going to talk about some of the ways to try to act sooner rather than later. So there's an assertiveness technique which helps us to say things in the best way possible to other people. And it's got 3 parts to it. And the first part, because of our nervousness and our anxiety, we always forget. And we go straight to part 2, which is the mistake we make. So part 1 is always show the other person that you entirely understand their situation first. So if somebody is late and persistently late at work, let's say, it's so easy to go in with point number 2, which is going to be what the problem is. You say, you're always late, you're late again, and you go straight for the jugular. Or we try to come in sideways and we use a little bit of hinting or sarcasm and say, oh, it's nice of you to turn up. But we always go for the problem first instead of, so point number one is show the other person you get their position. So it would be something like, I know these are really difficult times, and I'm sure, I know you're dealing with kids at home and trying to sort this and sort this. I really understand how hard it must be to get out of the door. So you empathise with the other person's position. You show that you get it.
Like in customer service when you're dealing with a complaint.
Totally.
Same sort of thing, really.
Totally that. Because it gets the other person on your side by you demonstrating you're on their side. Yeah,
you're acknowledging their feelings.
Totally. So that if you do that first, I need to talk to you about whatever it is, and then totally show that you get their point of view first. That's point number one. Secondly, it would be, this is the problem. This is the issue that I need to talk to you about. This is what's happening. Again, just stated straightforwardly. Don't beat about the bush. Don't tread on eggshells. You have been late 5 times this month, and it's caused us problems because of this. Just straight. Yeah. I get your point of view. I get your situation. This is the problem. Point number 3, how can we resolve it? These are my suggestions. Or is there something we can do to sort this? Can I do anything that will help you? Or what are we going to do about this? How are we going to fix it? These are my suggestions. Have you got any? And if we do it in that way, I need to talk to you about point number 1. I get how it is for you. I get how you might not even be aware that this is going on or a problem. Point number 2, this is the problem. This is the issue. Point number 3, in a really cooperative, collaborative way. So what can we do about this? How can we resolve this? What can I do to help? And then at the end, so we've agreed this. Thank you. Yeah.
But that also translates into other situations as well.
Totally. I mean, I would say that if I've got to confront somebody, I probably use that 95% of the time.
But it's not only like confrontation, it's how I feel inside about things as well, but being able to express to other, to people close to me as well, it translates into other areas. So it's, I suppose as well, if you're acknowledging that person, that gives you time to calm, doesn't it?
Totally.
Your levels are up,
time.
So you get that.
Yeah.
And then you can talk.
Totally. That's great. That's exactly it. It gives you time to calm. It gives you thinking time. And it's okay to say, I need to talk more about this, but I feel too emotional at the moment, so I'll come and talk to you in a while. That's okay as well. And also, it's okay to say, I've got something I need to say to you, but I'm really nervous. Or I've got something to say to you, but I'm worried I might break down and cry while I say it.
Yeah, that's what I do.
Great, because that gets the anxiety out, doesn't it? You've named the problem. You've said it. You've said, oh, my stomach's so tight. I'm really scared of saying this, but I've got to say it. And I think by being vulnerable in that way, you're not having to hide it. You've already said it. And you've also shown to the other person that you need their support in saying what you want to say as well.
Yeah.
And I think, it's great that you say that. It's great that you do that already. And I would encourage you to be as honest and straightforward in that way as you can. Because when you say it translates across the board, I'm imagining that what you could never say to your dad was, this is scaring me, or I'm anxious about this, or I don't like it when you shout at me. I imagine it was hard to say that.
Yeah, I mean, he's probably autistic, to be honest, the way he acts. But that's a completely different issue. So as an adult, I understand it, and I don't fear him now. But as a child, I definitely did fear.
Of course.
Saying what I wanted to say.
Of course.
And I think also part of it probably boils down to, that's a generational thing, the way parenting was then.
Absolutely.
Children didn't have an opinion. You were sort of seen and not heard, really. So, I get that as well. But this has been brilliant, thank you.
Totally true. And I think one of the things when we have learnt to be frightened is that we anticipate that everybody else in the world is going to have the reaction that we experienced growing up.
Yeah.
It's so easy. I call it cut and pasting. We cut and paste that experience onto everybody else.
Yeah.
Whereas if we can instead say, this is not my dad. This is not my dad. That person is not my dad.
Mm-hmm.
I mustn't turn them into my dad. I've got to see them. And I've got to believe that I can have a conversation with another human being without it always going that way.
Yeah.
Because this is not my dad.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I can...
It's a pattern, isn't it? And you get it's a habit, and you just need to retrain yourself, really, don't you? It's almost like programming yourself again.
Absolutely, it is. And so much of it is about reminding ourselves that it is not the same now.
Yeah.
Because we are an adult now. We've got an adult's body. We drive a car. We do our own shopping. We cook our meals. We make decisions for ourselves. We have power. We have power. We can walk away if we choose. We have power in a way that when we're a child, we have none of that power. If we're told to stand and listen, we have to stand and listen. We don't ever have to do that. We don't ever have to do that as an adult. And to keep reminding ourselves, I am a grown-up now. I have all the rights that a grown-up has. I have all the choices and power that an adult has. And the little girl that I was need never be frightened again. She's never going to have to go through that again, because I will never go there again. I don't have to live that again. This is not the same.
Thank you.
This is not the same.
No. Thank you.
And I think in terms of rewiring our brain and our memory, the more times you remind yourself, Sarah, that this is not the same, that you are not the same, that this is not your dad, that this situation is not the same, that this time is not the same, you will be building a new synaptic pathway that holds that current truth rather than the old memory truth that gets triggered. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Can you see situations where you can use this information to help you let it feel different?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, because I hadn't looked at it like that before. And then when you said that, it was like, that's it, isn't it? I revert to that little girl every time, and now I don't have to.
No,
I'm not her.
I think that's what happens to so many of us. We relive the experience that traumatized us in the first place, because our body carries that traumatic memory. And the minute the thought of having to speak to somebody, or the potential of somebody being angry or aggressive or upset, the minute there's that trauma memory is triggered, our whole body is full of anxiety and fear, and we want to run and hide or avoid at all costs. And what you experience in that moment, I couldn't tell you how many people over the years have faced with me that same issue. It is not something that you are alone in. So many of us have had to face that.
Yeah.
And it does help to say, I am not there now. That is not me now. That is not happening now. I'm experiencing the memory of it, but I'm cutting edge, leading edge me now. I'm here. I'm not back there. I'm here, and I have skills and choice and power.
Yeah. Thank you.
And nobody has the right ever to do that to me. And I'm allowed to say, I'm really happy to have this conversation, but I'm not prepared to be shouted at. And if it's not heard, repeat it and say, I'm happy to have this conversation, but I'm not prepared to be shouted at, and if it carries on, I shall leave.
Yeah.
Because that is the power and the choice you have.
Yeah.
And nobody can ever, ever take that away from you.
Okay,
can you feel that inside you?
Yeah. Yeah, I can. Thank you.
I'm going to offer you one more thing.
Yeah.
Which is that when trauma memory hits, are you right-handed or left-handed?
Right.
You're right-handed.
But
so
I can sometimes use my left, but mainly right.
But generally you're right-handed. Okay.
Yeah.
So use your non-dominant hand, so your left hand.
Yeah.
And place it here. Place it here. And either
I can't see where. Sorry, I can only see your head and shoulders.
Right, okay. Right. So it's here. I'm going to move up slightly. I'm here.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
Right.
I'm here in the middle of my chest, sort of just above the breast, here in the breastbone, and that is where you soothe traumatic memory. So you can either pat, you can stroke, but imagine you're holding a baby, and this is how it would feel on the baby's back. And as you do that, if you put your non-dominant hand, bring you down a bit, and then you can see me. Can you see?
Yeah.
If you put your non-dominant hand there, and while you're saying, I never have to go through that again, that is not who I am now, I'm not back there, I'm here, I am not powerless, I don't have to take anything. If you do that with your hand here like that, you will feel the connection to the young part that you that you still carry in your body, and you will feel your adult strength soothing that traumatic memory.
Sort of healing your inner child.
Totally. But connecting physically, bodily.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Is there anything else that you would like to say?
No, I think that'll be good, because it'll also translate to how I am with my own children.
Okay.
As well.
In what way are you thinking?
Because even with them, I would let things build up, not all the time, but and then with them, and then I might tell them off and then feel really guilty and back down again.
Okay.
But being able to say what I need to say and not feel guilty and not, and it's how I feel. So
totally. And I think that, again, it's bodily. It's about the fact that feelings are physical. So the minute we feel a sensation in our body, either of slight annoyance or irritation or fear or whatever it be, it's to try to notice it, think what it's in relation to, think how we're going to say it, and in thinking how we're going to say it, go back to those 3 points. Show the other person that you understand. They might not even be aware that their messy bedroom is a problem to you, or the fact that there are cups with 3 weeks of mold in them on on the windowsill is a problem.
Yeah.
Say, I realise it doesn't matter to you, or I realise you don't get bothered by those things, but I do. So what can we do about it? How do we resolve it? And when we do it like that, it shows that we are looking for compromise, collaboration, where we're on the same side. We're not looking for an argument. We're not looking for confrontation. We actually want to work it out. And it's so helpful just to say thank you at the end, to say, you know, thanks for listening, thanks for that, I really appreciate it. And I think one final thing is, it's always okay to say, let's see how it goes and we can review it in 2 or 3 weeks. We can do that with anything, because sometimes we feel that we've got something off our chest, we've said what we need to say, and we're hopeful. We think, oh, that solved it, we're there, we're done. And then it starts again. And to realise the other person can forget, because it might not be as important to them as it is to us. And so we're having a reaction, and they're cool and they're not thinking about it anymore. So that if we say, okay, we said we'd review this, how do you think it's going? Well, this is how I'm finding it. How are we gonna sort this? Let's think about it again. Why isn't it working? What needs to happen? And you see how collaborative and, I don't know, freedom giving of everybody that is.
See, I'm very good at doing that, seeing that for other people, and I do help a lot of other people. They come to me with stuff. But it's hard to do it to yourself, isn't it?
Yeah.
But I recognised that something had to change, and it was getting me down, so I just thought it needs sorting, or else I'm just going to go nuts.
Yeah. And I think, I think it's really important, that distinction between it being a memory that we fall into and the person we really are. And just doing a quick double take and saying, no, I've fallen into a memory. I can feel it all in my body. Actually, I can do what I need to do and say, no, this isn't who you are. You're not in that place. That need never happen again. This is who you are. And you deserve to be heard. And
thank you. I feel like something's been lifted. A big thing.
I'm really glad. I'm really glad.
Thank you.
And thank you
and
again,
thank you everybody for their lovely comments,
Sarah. Well, I think it's lovely to see them, isn't it, and know how many people are actually on your side and get it, and share the same issue as well, that you really are not alone.
Well, hopefully this has helped them as well, and they'll take the same thing away as I have.
I hope so. And Sarah, we are really rooting for you.
Thank you very much. And I am for you and everybody who feels the same way.
Good.
This lockdown doesn't help, does it? I think we're all...
No, it really doesn't.
Everybody's got time to stop and think.
I know.
And take stock.
And to ponder. But actually there's a positive in that as well, because it means we can ponder things and take time to work things out and think things through that normally we couldn't. So
we're too busy, all of us.
Absolutely that. Yeah.
Brilliant.
Good.
Thank you.
Take good care. Thanks so much, Sarah. Good luck.
And you.
Rooting for you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. Don't know how to switch it off.
It's all right. I should have done that. That's fine. Yeah, there are some lovely comments coming on. So many people recognising those same issues within themselves, and I think so many of us have learned that if we say what we really feel or what we want, we risk somebody being volatile or emotional or angry or upset back. And I think the really important thing to remember is, if we're saying what we've got to say as carefully and respectfully as possible, maybe using something like that formula that I shared earlier, then actually, if the other person gets angry or upset, they are being triggered by their own things, not by the way we've said it. And it is fine for us to say, I really do need to have this conversation with you, but if it's too difficult at the moment, let's take some time and I will come back to it when you've had time to think. But don't take it on yourself. If you've said what you need to say kindly and respectfully, and you've looked for cooperation and collaboration, then it is the other person's issue. It is not personal to you if they have an unfortunate reaction. They are confused or angered or shamed. They've got their own memory place. This is the vital thing. If you get a bad reaction, the other person has fallen into their own memory place. So in exactly the way that we talked about Sarah falling into a memory place and then anticipating that the same will happen, or experiencing the same reaction in her body that she would have experienced as a child, then in exactly the same way, the person having a negative reaction or an angry or upset reaction to something that you have said perfectly kindly and reasonably and respectfully, they've done the same. They have fallen into their memory place. That is their journey. That is their responsibility. It's okay for you to say, I can see that this feels really difficult right now. We do need to have the conversation, but let's take a break now. We'll talk again in half an hour when you're ready. But you don't have to back off. You don't have to stop. You don't have to let go of what you need to say, because that's the other thing that happens when we've learned as a child to be frightened of speaking. Then we feel that our only way of bringing a situation down is to let go of what we wanted to say and to not pursue it, because we haven't learned it's the other person's responsibility to manage their reaction and their feelings. We think we've got to do it for them, and we've learned that the only way we can do it is to let go and not pursue it and not say anymore and just become silent, which is what Sarah meant when she said losing our voice. How do we hold on to our voice? Well, we do it by remembering that if the other person's being triggered, that's their journey. It is not for us to have to back off. It is not for us to give up what we need or need to say because the other person is having a volatile reaction or a shame reaction or going quiet or sulking or whatever else. All of those things are childlike responses, and that person has fallen into a memory. And while we can feel compassionate and empathic about that, what we don't have to do is back off from what we nevertheless need them to understand, need them to hear, need to get off our chest. We don't have to do any of those things. In the way that we learn as a child, we have to back off, not mind, go silent, let go, give up, in the face of a parent who is having a big reaction. Sometimes that reaction is anger. Sometimes it's becoming really vulnerable and tearful and sort of communicating, you've really hurt me, you've really upset me, how could you do this to me? And the guilt we then carry into adulthood. And that guilt gets triggered again and again, which is another reason why we can find we cannot say what we want to say and we cannot find our voice. It can be because we believe that if we say anything, we will upset or hurt the other person and they will never recover. Yes, they will. They really will. They've just got to nurse their wounds for a bit and do the work. And I don't mean that to be unkind. That's just the situation. That's the truth of it. We all have to take responsibility for how we find ourselves reacting to what another has said or done to us. Our reaction is our responsibility. So often we grow up being told, you made me do this. You made me feel this. You've made me angry now. You've made me hurt now. You've upset me now. No. No, no. The other person is feeling hurt, is feeling angry, is feeling upset. We have not made them. We have simply behaved or spoken in a certain way, and we really do have the right to expect that that be talked through with us kindly and respectfully. Or if the other person can't do that straight away, that they take a break and they say, I'm feeling cross and I don't want to have this conversation with you while I'm cross. So I'm just gonna take a little while to calm down, and then when I'm ready to talk, we'll have the conversation and we'll see what we can do to make this better. That is what we all deserve. That's what we all need to be trying to do. That's real courage. That's real bravery. It isn't okay to behave in a bullying or thuggish way. We all have the right to have our vulnerability taken care of and respected. So much. And I do thank Sarah for bringing that subject into the live stream this evening, because I think so many of us have experienced all or some of what Sarah described. So thank you again, Sarah, for that. Now we've got 20 minutes left, and so I'm going to ask if anyone else has anything that they would like to ask. Either by coming in or simply by writing a message for me. Either is absolutely fine. My messages seem to have slowed down. Here we go. I'm just okay. Yeah, so many lovely messages for Sarah. People really appreciating Sarah's sharing. And you know, it is such a gift, isn't it, to come in and just share something so that everybody can benefit. And it's absolutely fine to ask for help or ask for some advice via a message. That's absolutely fine. But I also know that we gain so much more when someone actually comes in and shares openly. And so I would encourage you to keep on getting a little bit nearer and nearer to the edge of your comfort zone, and have in mind that maybe one day you might also message me and say, yeah, I'm ready to give it a go. I'll come in. I want to ask you this. So both is fine, but just hold on to that possibility, that one day there might be the possibility that you could come in and talk with me too. Okay, that's an interesting one, isn't it? Someone has said that this is what they are learning now. They're saying their mum won't die from the truth, and that's exactly what I was saying, isn't it? That it is the other person's responsibility to hear our truth, and not just hear our truth, but to give it some thought, to be respectful of the way we experience, because no one can tell us we shouldn't experience something in a particular way. We do. End of. If I experience it this way, this is what I'm in the middle of. This is how I'm experiencing it. I will continue to work with it and think about it and think whether I can work out why I'm experiencing that way, and probably what's getting triggered and what memory I might be falling into. But I do have the right to tell you, and I do have the right for you to listen. I do have the right to ask you to listen, as long as I do it respectfully and kindly, and with an appreciation that what I say might trigger you, and that if you have a particular reaction, then it's part of my responsibility to not get triggered by your triggered reaction, but to let you take some time to work it out. I don't have to make it better. I don't have to let go of what I need to say, but I do have to walk through life remembering that we all have triggers and we all get triggered, and that when we're triggered, it isn't personal. We have a set of situations and experiences from a very young age that set us up with the challenge of working them through. That there was no one on this earth that doesn't go through that. We all carry triggers, and we carry triggers from painful or frightening situations that have happened to us, usually as a child. And so we are dealing with the child, not the adult. So when somebody gets triggered, they've fallen into a memory place. And while we don't have to let go or immediately give up on what we need to say, the compassionate thing as a human being is to recognize that a memory place is not personal. It's about something else, someone else, some experience that person lived through and still struggles with. And when we realize that, we don't have to take it personally. We don't have to take it personally, and equally, we don't have to take responsibility for it. We simply have to understand it. We simply have to understand it. End of. But yes, you're right. Your mum will not die from the truth. Your mum will not die from the truth. And therefore, it is okay for you to tell her in the right way, in a way similar to the one that I described earlier this evening. And if we tell someone in the right way, then we have fulfilled our responsibility. We are all old souls on this earthly journey. So even though we may be frail and in our 80s or 90s, inside that body is a soul who can bear the truth. Inside that body is a soul that is here to hear the truth, and possibly to have a reaction and to learn from it. We don't need to be protected from the truth as a soul because our body is a little bit older than some. That's really important. Really important that we know that we are talking to the soul. We are talking to the soul, and if there is a truth that will be helpful for that soul to hear, so that that soul can do the work, then we should be sharing that truth. We are all on this journey together. We come into each other's lives intentionally. It is meant to be. Nothing is accidental. And very often we come into each other's lives to teach each other, or to mirror each other, or to invite the other or ourselves to grow. So we don't need to back off. We don't need to deal with kid gloves with these big issues that we face. All we have to do is try to deal with what needs to be said, what needs to be shared, what needs to be done, as kindly and respectfully as we can, because that's part of our journey. Part of our journey is to grow in compassion. And part of growing in compassion is to know that if the other is being triggered, it's because they have fallen into a memory place and it is not personal. We learn to take responsibility as a child for our parents' reactions, either to fear them and to back off, to feel guilty and responsible for them. Our parents are old souls, just as we are. And it's okay as we hit adulthood to recognise what the person just shared with us. My mother will not die from hearing the truth. Because mother, mum, is an old soul and came to hear the truth. Came to hear the truth. I've got somebody asking to come in to the video. We've got 10 minutes. Okay. I'm gonna ask, can you tell me what it is that you want to speak about? Is there a particular subject that you want to speak about? If there is, can you just let me know? I've learnt from past experience not just to bring anybody in, so I'm afraid I need to ask you what you'd like to talk about. And once I can see that, I am very happy to bring you in. But I'm not just going to click for everybody's sake, simply because somebody asks. So I need to know what you'd like to ask. Or if you don't want to do that today, fine to send me a message. Direct message me on my Instagram page and we can set that up for another time. So is there anybody else who would like to ask a question or to make a comment about things that we've discussed this evening, or indeed to ask in these last few minutes to come in to talk about something specific that they would like to talk about? I'm just going to give you a few minutes, and if I don't see any more questions and I don't see anyone coming in with a specific query or a specific request to come in, then I will probably decide that we're there for today. So another opportunity. Any more to say or ask, or are we there for today? And I noticed some people coming in at this point. I'm so sorry you've missed so much of the discussion that we've had about finding our voice, which, thanks to Sarah and one or two other people that have commented, I hope has been really useful for everybody. But I'm not seeing any more. I'm not seeing any more comments. I think that usually means we're done. It usually means people have got what they wanted from the session, and that we're here, done. So okay, in that case then I'm going to say thank you so much. You're very welcome. People saying thank you. You're so welcome. I'm so glad that you showed up. Thank you. Thank you for coming up and for your company. Now here's a question. So I'm going to read it out. With the situation. Oh, great. Somebody's saying I'll get braver. Maybe come on next week. That'd be great. I would love to talk with you. Please do. And direct message me if you want to talk more. I am going to just read this question out. So with the situation you've dealt with today, how do you deal with the individual who may take advantage of someone saying that they are vulnerable? They can't. They can't take advantage of you. You're not saying you're vulnerable. You're not. When you say you're vulnerable, you're just saying you feel scared. You're not saying you're going to be scared and be bullied. You're saying, I'm scared to say this, but I'm still going to say it. I'm feeling really anxious inside. Actually, it's strength. When we say, I'm feeling scared or I'm feeling vulnerable, that is the strongest position we can ever be in. There is nowhere to fall. We're not trying to put on an act or trying to hide what we feel. That's what gives the other person power. The other person has power when they can see that we're frightened or they can see that we're anxious, but that we're trying to hide it, because then they can see we daren't be fully ourselves. We daren't be real. There is nothing to be frightened of in saying, I'm feeling scared right now, but even though I'm scared, I'm going to say this. That's such a strong position. Does that answer your question? Nobody can take advantage of you simply sharing that you feel anxious or scared or nervous. They can take advantage of realizing that you're scared or nervous while you're pretending not to be, because that is a point of weakness, because it's you trying to hide something, and the fact that they can see that you're trying to hide it gives them power. But there is nowhere to fall when you say, I am really scared of saying this, but I've reached the point at which I'm going to say it, even though I'm scared. Watch me. That's very different. And if someone is trying to take advantage of that in some way, then you simply say, that isn't okay. I have told you how I feel, and now you're mocking it. Or now you're being snidey or sarcastic about it. Call them out. Say that is not okay. Either you're willing to listen to what I'm about to say to you, or you're not. And if you're not, then that leaves me with some decisions to make about whether I hang around and try to have the conversation with you, or whether I walk away. But stay strong. There is nowhere to fall. Vulnerability is strength. Being real is strength. It's trying to pretend that makes us weak and vulnerable and gives the other person some power over us. I hope that makes sense. I'm really happy to talk through that a bit more another time. However, for now, we have got, I'm glad that the viewer is saying that makes sense. Thank you, that's great, good. I'm really glad that was helpful. One more question, we've got about 2 minutes. Based on what you've discussed today, how do you deal with it if the person still makes you feel that way as an adult? Well, then you have the work to do. You have the work to do, which is helping yourself remember that you are an adult and that as an adult, nobody can actually make us feel any way at all. They can trigger memories, and then it's our job to get help or to work through that these are memories and not now. We have the right to walk away. We have the right to not have that person in our life. We have the right to limit our dealings with them. We have the right to tell them that it's not okay. We have so many rights as an adult. I'd love to come back to this, and if you would like to come in and talk with me about it, I would very happily do that. Let's talk about power and choice, and not letting someone reenact against our will, and how to remember that we're adults now. So much has come out from this evening, and I do thank you. I do thank you for sharing and coming in and asking the questions that you've asked. I know that will be helpful to so many people. But again, with about 1 minute to go, I'm going to say thank you for showing up. Thank you for your company and your questions. Thank you for your wonderful support of people that have come in to share their situations. And if you'd like to talk with me more, please direct message me. It's such a help to others to hear you share, and it will always be carefully and kindly and respectfully done. But for now, thank you for your company. Thank you for showing up. Big love to you all. Stay brave. Stay kind. Stay strong. And as always, enjoy the tea and cake. Big love. Talk soon.